Hey, what's good, guys? Mr. Cruz here. I know it's been a while since I did a video for y'all, but I know how much y'all like these. So, we're going to go over something called two-step inequalities. And even though I'm not there today, I still expect you guys to follow along, pay attention, and get your stuff done. All right. So, what we're going over today is called two-step inequalities. This is very similar, almost identical to the stuff that we've been going over, where like you're having to draw your river, box up your variable, look at what you have left over, and then do the opposite on both sides. Remember, the big fancy word that you're going to hear a lot is inverse, right? You're doing the inverse operation, which is just a fancy word that means the opposite. So that's what we're going to be doing in this one, except with inequalities comes like a little bit of an added difficulty, all right? So with inequalities, we have to do this stuff right here, right? What it says when we're graphing these, we have to use open or closed circles according to whether our inequality sign has a line underneath it or not, right? Y'all remember the gator mouth stuff, right? We've gone over this stuff before. All right, so this is just like regular two-step equations or multi-step equations, which we did one step and two-step. Make sure that if you multiply or divide on both sides by a negative number on both sides, that means that we're going to reverse or flip our inequality sign. So that means if my sign started out like this, and then if at one point the rule comes into effect where I multiplied or I divided by a negative number on both sides, that means I'm going to flip my symbol like this. So there are a couple of instances, and you'll see in these examples, where we're going to end up flipping or reversing our gator mouth symbols because just because of that rule. All right, and then also when we're graphing these, that we got to be mindful of the fact that when the gator mouths do not have a line underneath it, that's going to be an open circle. And when they do have a line underneath it, it's going to be a closed circle. So I kind of like to think of it as if they took the time to draw the gator mouth and put a line underneath it, then I got to take the time to draw my circle and fill in the circle. Okay. But we'll go over these in our examples. All right, let's go ahead. So first example, I would say this as 6 times x plus 15 is greater than 9. All right, so I'm going to draw my river down the middle of my inequality symbol. I'm going to box up my variable, which is 6x, and all I'm left with is plus 15. What's the opposite of plus 15? Minus 15. So I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. Dang, that's a really big minus sign there. All right, so in my calculator, I'm putting 9 minus 15, and then I end up with negative 6. So now I can bring down what I boxed up. So now I have 6 times x. 6 times x is greater than or equal. No, it's not greater than or equal to, just greater than. 6 times x is greater than negative 6. So if I have 6 times x, the opposite would be to divide by 6. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. I'm left with my x all by itself, and then I have negative 6 divided by positive 6, and that's going to give me a negative 1. So now we got to go back to what we had talked about in this slide earlier, right? Making sure that if you multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides, that you reverse the inequality symbol. Okay, so looking here, I did divide by a negative number, right? I divided by negative 6, but I only did that on one side of my equal sign. Or sorry, one side of my river. So my inequality symbol is going to stay the same as it was. So x is greater than negative 1. Now, we don't know what x represents. All we know is that that number has to be bigger than negative 1. So the next thing that you guys are going to end up doing here is we're going to have to graph this, right? We're going to have to plot this on a number line. So if x is greater than negative 1, that means I'm going to put an open circle, right? Because there's no line underneath it, on negative 1. And then I got to highlight all the numbers that are bigger than negative 1. So what direction would all the numbers that are greater than negative 1 be? That would be to the right. All right. And an easy way to remember this is, right, our final solution was x greater than negative 1, right? This gator mouth right here kind of functions the exact same way as our arrow, and it kind of gives us an indication as to what direction our number line should be going whenever we're graphing this. Now, this only works when my variable is on the left side of my inequality symbol, okay? All right, let's go on to the next one. Bam. All right, I would say this as y divided by 2 plus 5 is greater than 8. Draw my river, box up my variable. I'm left with plus 5. What's the opposite of plus 5? Minus 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. This side over here will cancel out. and then I bring down what I boxed up, which is y divided by 2. So y divided by 2. Over here, 8 minus 5. That means in my calculator, I would put 8. Oh, shoot. In my calculator, I'll put 8 minus 5, and then I would end up with 3. Bam. So y divided by 2, right? And my gator mouth symbol is still staying the same. Y divided by 2 is greater than 3. So now I got to do the opposite, which is the opposite of divided by 2 would be to times 2. Boom. This side over here is going to cancel out, and then y is left by itself. This side over here, 3 times 2 is going to give me 6 as my answer. Now, my inequality symbol, did I have to multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides? I did not, so it's going to stay the same. Y is greater than 6. Next up is that we got to plot this on a number line. So if y is greater than 6, remember what I said about that trick, about the arrow, and my variable is on the left side, so that means that my line should be going to the right. So it's going to be an open circle on 6 going to the right to indicate all of the numbers that are bigger than 6 if y is greater than 6. All right, let's go over a few more. 13 minus 8 times x is less than or equal to 53. All right, we're going to move through a little bit faster on this one. Draw my river, box up my variable. Now, when I box up my variable, I can't just box up right here, right? I can't just box up 8x. I have to box up whatever subtraction symbol or addition symbol is taking place next to it. If I'm boxing up a variable, if there's an operation taking place to the left of it, I have to box that up as well, because that addition sign or that subtraction sign is going to attach itself to our coefficient there. So I have 13 left, right? I have positive 13 specifically. So what is the opposite operation of a positive 13, right? You could say negative 13, but negative is not an operation. When I ask for an operation, I'm asking for, is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing? So what operation would you associate with negative 13, right? You would associate that with subtracting. So I'm going to do minus 13 on both sides here. All right, this side over here is going to cancel out. And over here I have 53 minus 13. 53 minus 13, that would give me 40. I'm going to do this in my calculator just to be sure, because sometimes, and y'all don't know how late I be doing these videos. Yes, I got that right, 40. So now I can bring down what I boxed up. Now remember, I boxed up that subtraction symbol, so now it's actually going to turn into negative 8x, right? So negative 8x, or negative 8 times x, and 40. So what am I going to do to both sides? If I have negative 8 times x, the opposite would be to divide by negative 8. So I'm going to divide by negative 8 on both sides. This side over here will cancel out, and x will be left by itself. And then over here, 40 divided by negative 8, that's going to give me a negative 5 as my answer. Now, my inequality symbol was this, right? It was less than or equal to. But because on this last step here, because I divided by negative 8 on both sides of my river, that means I'm going to flip my inequality symbol this way. So in the end, my answer is going to look like this. X is greater than or equal to negative 5. And we're doing that because we divided by a negative number on both sides of the river. All right, so that means it's going to be a closed circle this time on negative 5. Because that line the gator mouth has the line underneath it, so that means I got to take the time in to fill in my circle here. And then my variable's on the left side, so that means I can kind of follow the rule here. My arrow is going to go to the right, highlighting all the numbers that are bigger than or equal to negative 5. All right, let's do one more, and we'll call it quits. All right, this time we have a variable on the right side. All right, so this is going to be a little tricky. So I have 5 is less than or equal to 2 minus x. All right, I'm going to draw my river. And again, I'm going to box up my variable. Oops, I messed up there. But when I box up my variable, I have to box up the subtraction symbol as well. So in reality, that's going to end up being negative x. All right, I'm left with a positive 2. What's the just like the last time, right? When we had positive 13 in my last example. What is the opposite operation of a positive 2? It would be minus 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. This over here is going to cancel out. And then over here, I have 5 minus 2. Well, from kindergarten, I remember that that is 3. Maybe y'all learned that in first grade. And then over here, I'm bringing down what I boxed up. So I have negative x. So remember, every variable has a number in front of it, right? There's a number that's right here. But what is that number? Well, if there's no number there, we can just assume, we can just assume that the number there is 1. It's not really an assumption. We know that it's 1. We can just kind of infer that there's 1. So if I have negative x, what number do you think would be in front of that number, in front of that variable? What number would go here? Well, it would be a negative 1. So in reality, I have negative 1x. So what would the opposite? And remember, when we see a number and a letter attached like this, it means that they are being multiplied. So what should I do here? If I have negative x, because I can't have a negative variable, what should I do in order to get rid of this? Well, I'm doing the same thing that I would do if I saw it like this, where I see a number and a letter being multiplied. I would divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 1 on both sides. This will cancel out, and then my x will be all by itself over here. And then in my calculator, I'm doing 3 divided by negative 1, and that's going to give me negative 3. Now, because we ended up having to divide by a negative 1 on both sides, we're going to flip our inequality symbol from less than or equal to greater than or equal to. So negative 3 is greater than or equal to x. Now, here's the problem. If I were to plot this on a number line, right, it would be a closed circle on negative 3. And just by looking at this, right, you remember what I said, that, hey, this symbol right here lets me know what direction my arrow is going to go. Well, in this case, it's not going to work because my variable's on the right side. So in actuality, my arrow is going to go this way. All right. Now, what you could do is you could literally just flip everything around, right? You could just put the x, negative 3, and then just make sure to notice that this gator mouth is eating negative 3. So if I want to flip it the right way so that I can plot it easier, I need to make sure that I'm flipping this symbol that it stays consistent with what it was before. So if it was eating negative 3 before, I need to make sure that it's eating negative 3. And now here, it does line up and it does match with what I would plot on my number line. The other thing that you can do is read the sign from whatever side the variable starts on, right? So x, the gator mouth is not eating x, so that means that x is less than. So x is less than or equal to negative 3. Well, all the numbers that are less than or equal to negative 3 are going to be to the left on my number line. You could do that one of those two different ways. I would suggest doing it this way. Just flip everything back around, or just flip everything in reverse and then move on from there, because that way your variable will be on the left side, and then you'll know what direction to send your arrow. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Good luck on your assignments. Hit me up if you guys need anything. Well, not there, but you can hit up Miss P or whoever else is substituting for me today. All right, peace out, you guys. Bye.